Hello, I am Chris Pickard, Director of Body Imbalance in Hertfordshire, and today I am going to be talking about a guy called Wim Hof and the Wim Hof Method. You're going to want to watch this till the end. Before you do that though, please subscribe to the channel so you get weekly updates. And there's possibly a way to actually get reminders as to when the next video goes out as well. So Wim Hof, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the effect and benefits of this method first of all, especially if you've never heard of it. And then I will go through a little bit about how it produces the changes and then the basics that are easy to actually teach. And there are two basics, they're very easy, and most people can do them straight away, and you're going to get immediate benefits from doing this. And then at the end, I'm also going to give some other links that are going to support this process for you as well. So Wim Hof. Wim Hof isn't just some made up name. Wim Hof is the name of a Dutch, health superstar, endurance athlete. And he is also known globally as the Iceman, because he holds world records for being submerged the longest in an ice bath, having the longest swim underwater under ice, just by holding his breath. He's climbed mountains in his bare feet and just shorts. He's also run, I think, a half marathon or a marathon in the desert with no water. So it's not just about cold. He's also been injected with various bacterial components that should have actually produced all kinds of cold and flu-like inflammatory reactions, and they didn't, or at least not very much. And then he even trained other people to do the same as him within 10 days, be injected with something that should have caused flu-like symptoms, and it didn't. So what's going on? What's this all about? So the Wim Hof method is basically composed of three things: breathing, a breathing exercise, a mindset exercise or exercises, and also gradual cold exposure. Now, don't panic about that last one. That's the one that people always go at. I'll go into that in a moment, in a little while. First of all, what are some of the benefits? Well, some of the benefits are things like better resilience. Now, what does resilience mean? Resilience basically means your ability to resist everything that life throws at you. So we're talking about stressful life events. So become much more resilient to all the stress that's put upon you, whether it's at work, whether it's family stresses, life stresses, all the mental, emotional stuff. Your brain will actually be able to resist more and think more. But also resilience is about blowing off colds and flus, resisting all the crud and rubbish of the bacteria and viruses that life throws at you. So you'll become stronger and fitter as well. It seems to be also ideally situated for helping people with autoimmune conditions, Crohn's disease, probably polymyalgia rheumatica. You'll see why. If you haven't heard of polymyalgia rheumatica or PMR, don't worry. If you have PMR, you're going to understand why this may be so good for you. So if you're an athlete, it's great for actually making you endure more. If you're a normal human being, just want to improve yourself, it's going to be good for you. And if you're very sick, it's probably going to really help you a lot. The only things to be aware of is if you do have migraines or some other really serious health conditions, make sure you actually work with someone that can actually train you in this properly, okay? Because if you have migraines or if you have blood pressure problems and you try part of this at home by yourself alone, you are responsible for what happens, okay? So I've warned you. So Wim Hof, breathing, mindset, gradual cold exposure. So how does all this stuff work? Well, there's a few mechanisms, and I'm going to go through three of them. First of all, when Wim Hof is training and getting you to do the breathing part, which we will get to, and this is the part that you need to be careful with. Okay, most people are fine, but a few people you need to be very careful. With the breathing, he was all talking about alkalization. Now, I have already done some videos on acid-alkaline balance. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch them. If you think you know what alkalization is all about, go and watch them, because you probably don't know the whole truth. Okay, there's lots of stuff out there on the internet land that's talking about you must alkalize, and then there's lots of skeptics out there saying that's ridiculous, you can't actually over-alkalize the body, you'll be dead. And they're right. See, alkalization and all the alkalization stuff you see out there, it's not about making your body more alkaline, it's about resisting the acidity that happens, because your body will do all sorts of things to keep your body at the right pH balance, the right acid-alkaline balance. And this breathing technique really, really helps your body resist acid, get rid of acid, so it's easier to maintain the right alkalinity, slightly acid level. So it uses less resources, so it has more resources to do things like create energy. So one thing is acid-alkaline balance, and you need the right acid-alkaline balance for all your enzymes to work, your hormones to work, your system to just work properly, your muscles to keep on working. When the muscles get sore because of too much acid buildup, the breathing technique helps lower that. So you've got acid-alkaline balance. Go and watch the other videos that I've done. Then you have brown fat, okay? Now the gradual cold exposure does a number of things, one of which is it helps you produce brown fat. Now, at the moment you might be thinking, hang on, I don't want more fat. I don't want more fat, Chris. You want more brown fat though. Now, white fat is the fat that people think of when it comes to fat. Brown fat, it's just unfortunate that it's probably called fat, because it's very, very different from white fat. White fat is where things just get stored. Brown fat is a very active cell that burns fat to produce heat. So basically, if you want to get rid of fat, you want to make more brown fat, because it's just going to burn energy and create heat. And when you expose yourself to cold gradually, and the more of it you do, you actually start creating more brown fat cells, which basically means you create more heat, which means that over time you can become the Iceman and you can tolerate a lot more cold, basically. So heat is great. Okay, so brown fat. But gradual cold exposure and all these things also seem to have a massive effect on our anti-inflammatory system, possibly by raising cortisol. Now, if you are a bit of a meditation expert, a bit of a stress relief expert, you'll know, and in fact I've spoken about this a lot, is that too many people have chronically raised cortisol. So why would you want to do this and raise your cortisol? Bear with me. Well, cortisol is our natural steroid. We need to produce it every day. It's part of our fight-flight response mechanism in order to basically get us up and going. But it's also massively anti-inflammatory. This is why so many inflammatory conditions, asthma, arthritis, where they give steroid injections to bring down inflammation in the body for back pain, for shoulder pain. Why also they give cortisol to people to actually suppress their immune system. Again, bear with me on this, okay? Because this is not going to suppress your immune system, it's going to make it work better. But what the Wim Hof method does is, unlike other sort of meditation techniques, other things that just work on just lowering the stress levels, this seems to increase your ability to respond to stress by actually creating a lot more cortisol when it's needed, and basically keeping it at much lower levels the rest of the time, because you're not going to get stressed and chronically release it. But it also has direct effect on bringing down your inflammatory proteins in your body. So the things that give you all the aches and pains when you get colds, the things that give you all the aches and pains when you exercise. And it also allows you then to decrease the amount of anti-inflammatory proteins you make, but not so dramatically, because you've decreased all the inflammatory proteins, so you don't need the anti-inflammatory ones. Now, polymyalgia rheumatica and some other autoimmune problems are basically, you need a lot more steroids in your life, okay? And the Wim Hof technique is basically going to give you the ability to create the natural steroids you need, but without actually suppressing your immune system. So if you have an autoimmune problem, start practicing this. You're actually going to allow your immune system to start working better. And there's some other things you can do to make it even better if you have an autoimmune condition. So you've got 3 parts to the Wim Hof. There are at least 3 mechanisms through how it works. So how do you actually do it? Well, the concentration part is something that you really have to learn by actually going through the Wim Hof experience. And there's meditation and there's yoga combined with it. But that's just part of it. The two biggest factors are the breathing and the gradual cold exposure. Now, the gradual cold exposure can be done simply by stepping into a shower, your normal shower, and then you just gradually turn it down. Start by doing that. As you gradually turn it down, you get used to it, turn it down a little bit more. A few seconds later, get used to that, turn it down, get used to that, turn it down. Well, I'm not getting used to it, but I can put up with it. So I'm going to turn it down a bit more. Yeah, I can still put up with it. I'll turn it down a bit more. And you'll actually get down to really, really cold. And the longer you stay under it, the better you feel. You start to feel, yeah, my body's almost resisting the cold. I feel good for it. And each time you do it, the next time you're ready to turn it down quicker. And then you'll actually realize that the shock of sudden cold exposure does you even more good. It gives you lots of energy. There's all kinds of effects that happens with cold exposure that are very, very good for you. So you start practicing cold exposure every time you have a shower or a bath. Make it cold at the end or even at the beginning to shock yourself. Okay, so but you can go into more extremes as well. So what is the breathing technique? The breathing technique is very simply taking in lots of oxygen, taking in full, deep breaths, and then only letting out a partial breath. So you're left with some oxygen in your lungs. This allows carbon dioxide to actually diffuse into it and get out as well. So you want to breathe in deeply and then you just let the breath out. So you're not forcing the breath out. So you really bring it in. And when you watch Wim Hof doing it, he really does get up straight. And then when he lets it go, he does actually sag. So it's basically the body is just allowing air to be expelled. But also he seems to roll his eyes up, which I think helps him induce a parasympathetic response in his system. I think that's what rolling your eyes up might do. But anyway, so breathing in. Now, at first, it may actually be good to just breathe in through your nose because you get less of a dizzy, giddy effect. If you really are getting really dizzy and giddy, make sure you do this exercise actually sitting down in a comfy chair where you can't fall over. If you have a blood pressure problem, if you have migraines, make sure, in fact, if you have migraines, don't try this until you've actually seen an expert that can help you with your migraines, because too much oxygen can actually cause you to have a migraine. But also if you have blood pressure problems, this can cause issues when you're doing this hyperventilation. So don't try this if you have blood pressure problems unless you're with someone to help you. But basically you take 30 breaths in and let it go. And after 30 breaths, you let the 30th breath go, and then you just hold your breath out. And it's good to time it. And you may be surprised at how long it takes for you to feel that you need to breathe in again. And then when you do feel the need, you breathe in, hold the breath in for 10-15 seconds. Wim describes like trying to push the oxygen into your head. I mean, you do feel, when you feel that urge to breathe when you've been holding your breath, and then you just breathe in once and just wait 5 seconds or so, you'll start to feel a lot better. And then you breathe out and then you start the process again. So 30 breaths in again. And after 30 breaths, let out the 30th breath, time how long you hold your breath again, and you'll find that it's increased without any effort. And then you breathe in again, hold for 10-15 seconds, breathe out, you repeat the process. First day maybe only do 1 set of 30, second day do 2 sets of 30, maybe then increase it to 3 or 4. But you'll find that you can then hold your breath a lot longer, and it gets easier every day that you do it. You'll also find you become, a lot of things that used to stress you out, stop stressing you out after just doing this for a week. Cold exposure becomes easier as well, especially if you do the breathing and then the cold exposure. Okay, well, I would suggest that you learn more from Wim Hof. Look up the Wim Hof website, enroll for his free course, and then if you want to expand and do the paid for stuff. What I would also suggest you do is learn, because part of the concentration Wim Hof talks about is actually improving your diet, improving your exercise. And one of the systems that I really like to use are the nitric oxide systems of basic nitric oxide is a really important molecule in your body, and there's ways you can feed yourself and exercise to improve nitric oxide, and it goes really well with the Wim Hof method. So click the link to actually learn the nitric oxide stuff, get the nitric oxide diet and foods. It's all free. Go and apply this and start practicing the Wim Hof technique. And I'd love to know what you think and what your results are in the comments below. Be well, subscribe to the channel, and remember, you are magnificent.